Hey everyone, my name is Shelley. I'm an Astro Heart coach, and I'm standing in this week for Nadiya Shah, who is still not feeling well, wishing her the best recovery, the best wishes, and the best of everything. I really want to highlight a little bit about Nadiya because it ties into this week's astrology. And that is, we have a new moon in Leo. And the biggest thing that you can learn about Leo energy is that Leo energy, the energy of your sun, that is in its best, fullest, brightest expression when it shines, and when it shines to support other people. And Nadiya has always been there, supporting everyone, supporting the astrological community. And when you think of how you see her in these videos that you love, that is an example of your sun shining. And when you think about this new moon in Leo, think about your sun shining, and think about, if you know the house that you have Leo in, how you can express that house. If you don't know that, it's totally fine, because you can really get a lot out of just this concept of Leo. So Leo rules the sun, and the sun is the brightest, boldest planet, star in the sky, at least from our perspective here on Earth, right? It brightens us, it blazes us, and it's what sustains life for us. So the new moon is about new beginnings. And in Leo, it's about really digging into your sense of self. Now, Leo can go kind of awry when it wants to be seen so badly that it's like blazing over other people, putting other people down, pushing people aside. But the real joy of Leo is that it doesn't have to do that. It can shine while showing others their own light. So this is a really important time to dig into what it is that's important to you. In fact, your mission, your purpose, all of that can come out during this time. Now, I want to say one thing, because it's a new moon, the moon is a little bit more elusive sometimes. The sun is there, the moon is there, but you might not see those results instantly. The moon asks us to be a little more introspective, to dig deep and get some of our own insights. The beauty of Leo in its pure expression is that it's childlike, it's playful, and it's supportive. All of those things. It's really important that rather than taking it so seriously, you let it be something that you move into, that you play with. And think about it this way. I'm sure you all have seen Leo energy in action that has been abrasive, that pushes people over, that kind of like digs into the fabric of community and tears it apart. But Leo energy is actually really supportive of community when it's well manifested. And I know you all have seen that too. We as human beings all need to shine. And we all have Leo somewhere, as I've said, and we all have a sun. So when we're dipping into that Leo energy, think about what it is that you see in others and how you want to support them without sacrifice. This isn't about sacrifice. It's about how the things that are so important to your mission, to your values, are actually interconnected. This Venus in Leo is also in a square to Uranus in Taurus. Uranus is the great disruptor. This is our values. So be open. Dip into that Leo energy. Let yourself play. Let it be a little bit fun, and do something small that pushes your boundaries a little bit. Just wear a different type of clothing, or eat a different type of food, or use a word you wouldn't normally use that makes you feel a little embarrassed, like it's from the wrong generation, like you're using like something your grandparents would say or something your children would say and you sound stupid and out of place. This is a great thing to do right now, and fun. And because also we're heading into Mercury retrograde. So words are important, but they also they need to be not always taken super seriously. So if you can play with them, if you cannot take them as seriously from yourself, and if you cannot take them as seriously from other people all the time, then you can be more flexible and more willing to stop and pause when somebody says something and not react immediately. One thing always with the new moon to consider is that it's the energy of the sun, but it's also the energy of the moon. And the moon can be more underneath the surface, it can be subtler, it can be more internal. So sometimes those changes we want to manifest, sometimes they have to happen within us first. And sometimes that takes time. And the Leo new moon is the perfect time to initiate that self-discovery, that meaning, that sense of self that needs to be expressed, but might need to just also be in its incubation stages. The new moon is also in a sextile. It's supported by Mars and Jupiter. So Mars is action, Jupiter is expansion. When those come together, this can get volatile sometimes, but it also is helpful. Sometimes we need that energy to get us moving. So when that's coming to the moon, normally when I think about like Mars to the moon or Jupiter to the moon, there's an element of, is this going to cause some emotional reaction? And with it being a sextile, there's more supportive energy there. So when I think about the emotional reaction, I think, okay, it's probably more positive, or we might be able to use it more easily in a positive way. Sextiles usually are energy you kind of have to motivate to move. They're there for you, but you don't always just, it's like, it doesn't always just kind of happen. And to add to that, it's Saturn is there. There's a square to Saturn. So if there's this feeling that things aren't moving fast enough, that's normal right now. Saturn is going to slow things down. Mars is going to say, but I want to move. Jupiter really wants to move. Those two are button heads. And we as human beings, we have to be somewhere in the middle. We have to be willing to take action. But my best advice is not to get too attached to the results, and to also be like, okay, I don't know the whole story. Mercury, after all, is retrograde. Mercury retrograde is that time when Mercury changes direction. So it's just moving along, moving along, moving along. It starts to slow down, and then it goes back the other way. And then it slows down again, and it goes back the other way. And no, this is not actually happening. But as astrologers, as people who look up at the sky, we can see it looks like that's what's happening. And astrology is really based on this subjective kind of idea. It's our perspective, our psychological perspective, our body perspective of what's happening for us on this earth. So Mercury retrograde, we're going to go back over the same things. We're going to have a big look at how we communicate, at how others communicate, at the technology we use, and how we're interacting with all that technology. Mercury is in Virgo, which it's really comfortable in. Virgo is one of the rulers of Mercury, so it likes it there. So Virgo, well, we often think of perfectionism, little small details, really getting into the nitty-gritty of things and noticing all the things. One of the things I want to say about Virgo is the virgin. It's that purity, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean it the way we might interpret it on the surface. Virgin, think of virgin not as lack of sex or no sex or not having done XYZ. Think of it as not being owned by those things. Think of it as the woman who is not married. So she has chosen, and I'm looking back in history here, she's chosen or ended up to be able in this lifestyle where her choices were not dependent on a man or being owned by a man. And so that virgin quality is really someone who can be discerning, who can make their own choices and can be really connected to the earth. And as you're thinking of this Mercury retrograde, think of your mind as not being owned, even by yourself. One of the problems that we often face in this world is we try to use our minds to answer all questions. We try to fix all things with our minds. All problems cannot be fixed by the power of the mind. So if you catch yourself thinking a lot, really grinding away at a problem, and it's not working, if you start getting worrisome, try switching to a different perspective. Like, how can you move into this from a visual perspective, an audio perspective? How can you use your body? How can you just let go of logic for a moment and see where that takes you? And I'm not suggesting completely let go of it. This is the thing about the mind. It is so beautiful. It makes us human. But it needs to be distracted. It needs to be helped out. It needs to not always be the one making every single decision. The thing about Virgo is that Virgo wants to control. It wants to control the outcome. So this is where Mercury retrograde could get a little messy, a little bothersome, a little like, because if we want to control the outcome and we don't know everything and we haven't just sort of opened ourselves up to other opportunities, we can feel really anxious and agitated. So Mercury in Virgo has a sharp mind. But what we want to really think about during Mercury retrograde, particularly in Virgo, is how we can tap into the earth. Virgo is an earth sign, and anything you can do to get yourself outside, to go on a hike, to go swimming. I know Virgo isn't water, but really, we're just got to get ourselves into nature somehow. And if all you can do is go outside and touch your hands on the ground and feel it, put your feet on the ground and feel the ground, any level of anything you can do is going to be really helpful. That Mercury in Virgo, if you start to feel kind of agitated or upset, just pull yourself back and breathe. Breathe, feel the air in your lungs, pause. Virgo is actually going to be, Venus is going to be in Virgo. So I said, there was that Leo Venus. It's going to be moving into Virgo at the end of day on Sunday or possibly Monday, depending on your time zone. So we're going to have that switch. And this Venus, so Venus, once again, is what we value. And Venus in Virgo can be very self-sacrificing, almost to the point of wanting to be a martyr, to just like kind of craving that, like letting people walk all over me. And this is where we can find that balance with that Leo moon. So how can we be of service without giving up on ourselves? So we're still contributing, but we're a part of it. It's not like a begrudging thing or something that we feel guilty about. It's something that we truly are. We're all going on a Virgo journey this week. Virgo moon is happening on Monday. And so that moon, the moon in astrology, is our sense of nurturing. It's how we feel connected and taken care of and loved. And it's how we would tend to express that to other people. So the moon in Virgo, in a beautiful way, is connected to the earth. The moon in Virgo is of service. The moon in Virgo wants us to notice that we can always do things a little bit better. And this is a great thing. It's a great thing to create something of value. And during Mercury retrograde, it's okay to really not have that end result anyway. As I mentioned before, you don't want to get too caught up in your own idea about things and controlling it to a perfect outcome. Instead, collaborating, thinking about how you can be playful about it, launching off that new moon in Leo energy can be helpful. So that moon in Virgo is going to first come to Venus in Virgo. So we might think about what we value, and then it's going to hit on Mercury. So we have this triad of Venus, Moon, Mercury, and Virgo, pushing us all to work a little bit deeper, notice the details a little bit more, and take it all into consideration. Just don't get too caught up on it. That moon in Virgo, it's going to be coming into a square with Mars and Jupiter in Gemini. So Mars is action, and then Jupiter is opportunity. It's expansion. It brings us things. And when these two come together, there's a real sense of something needs to happen. I need to do something. Something is about to break up. And with the moon, it can be emotionally agitating. In a positive way, though, this energy can get us moving. There is a square also to Saturn, so there's probably going to be this sense of movement and then stopping, or movement and then slowing down. It's all part of the August energy. It's all part of the Mercury retrograde cycle. And don't worry about being hyper-focused, because Gemini doesn't allow us or want us to be super hyper-focused. We're exploring different options. And with Gemini, there is going to be at least 2 options, possibly more. So that moon, as it moves through its cycle, as we're exploring our Virgo-ness, all of us, it's going to continue on. Go on to Saturn, feel a bit of restriction, maybe a little bit of heavy emotional energy. Maybe there's an impasse somewhere where you thought you were moving along and then you're suddenly getting stopped. Don't think of it as an end stopping, but rather a stop along the way. One last thing before I go, the Mercury station. So the Mercury station is part of the Mercury retrograde phase where Mercury appears to stand still. So that's the time when it's moving along and then it pauses, stops, and moves very, very slowly. And then again, at the end of the cycle, when it goes direct, it also has a station. These are really ripe moments. So pay attention as much as possible. We're in the station, and you might see effects of the station through August 9th. Take notes. What information did you get? Especially if you want to learn more about astrology and how it works in your own chart, in your own life. Keep a journal if you learned anything of importance. A friend, a partner, a coworker, something that kind of hit you emotionally, or just some news that you got that you didn't know about. And then look to the outer world as well. And compare that information to possibly some more information that you'll get at the end of the retrograde cycle during that station. So I want to thank all of you for listening, being here. Thank Nadiya for having this channel, for inviting me. And I wish you all the best in drawing into your own Leo light for that new moon, being the brightest you can be, whether that's an inward brightness or an outward brightness, supporting other people, but not sacrificing your own needs.